I love this place. Uh, Western Washington, I mean, um, so much of what makes it what it is to me is the landscape and the climate. Um, and a lot of those to me is the interplay of the ocean and the Cascades, my favorite mountains. The the weather that we have, which creates this ecosystem, comes from, um, in large part, the moisture coming off of the ocean. Our predominant moist weather comes from the west, from the ocean. And that air coming off the ocean, laden with the ocean moisture, crosses over where we are in Bellingham, hits the Cascade Mountains, which are at their lowest 4,000 feet tall and at their highest 14,410 or whatever Mount Rainier is. So that air, moist air, has to rise up to get over the mountains, and it's getting pushed from behind from other air, so it gets pushed up over the mountains, and as it rises, of course, it gets colder. It's just colder at higher altitudes, and in colder air, that moisture stops being water vapor and starts being water droplets, which then falls as rain. uh, so the moist air rises, cools, and dumps rain on the west side of the mountains. And then, of course, it goes over the mountains and comes back down into eastern Washington, warms back up, but the moisture has already been dropped over here, and so it's just drier in eastern Washington. Totally separate climate over there. That's east for me right now. And in longer term, the larger patterns of weather are determined by ocean temperatures. That determines a lot for us, and those were the cycles that John was describing. The Pacific Decadal Oscillation, which is a roughly 10-ish year cycle of warmer and cooler surface temperatures in the Pacific Ocean near us, relatively near us, global wise. And then the El Nino La Nina cycle also changes in Pacific Ocean surface temperatures that change our local climate and weather. And so much of the ecosystem here in Western Washington is shaped by the weather that we have. And I was totally shocked just a few years ago, a little embarrassed to say it, but just a few years ago when I learned that the dominant force for our ecosystem, for our plant life, I normally think of Western Washington plants. I think of the dominant trees, Douglas fir, western hemlock, western red cedar. These are all conifers, needle-bearing trees. And those trees are actually not the trees that thrive in wetness, but they're the trees that thrive in dryness, because the dominant force for us is the summer drought. The weather patterns that bring moist air from the Pacific stall out in the summer. We get stiller air and less moisture, and so our dominant force in the ecosystem is this summer drought. Wet winters, dry summers, and that's what we're expecting to see with climate change in this region, is wetter, warmer winters and drier, warmer summers. And those impact the three things that John talked about that are huge pieces of our local identity and ecology and landscape: the water, forests, and salmon. With more moisture falling in warmer winters, we're expecting to see more of that moisture coming down as rain rather than snow. So up in the mountains out east will be shallower snowpack and more water just running off, causing winter floods. And in the summer, we'll have smaller volumes of water in our streams because there isn't the snowpack to melt into those streams in the summer. So drier, hotter, less water in the summers, and in the winters, warmer, wetter, and much more water. That directly impacts salmon. warmer water is not great for salmon. One of the big reasons in streams is that warmer water holds less oxygen than cooler water. So in the streams for adult fish, it's harder for them to breathe, but perhaps more critically that salmon eggs require a lot of oxygen. So warmer temperatures in streams means fewer eggs survive to become adult salmon. Forests, of course, there's the potential spread of pests, like I referenced in Montana with the pine bark beetle that could come from warmer temperatures. But one of the big ones is just fires. Biggest determiners of fire are temperature and moisture. So with more temperature and less moisture, we expect to see more forest fires in this region. Yeah, climate change is going to happen everywhere. There's going to be big changes. I believe we can make a difference. I believe we can change it if we choose to. Hope you're all doing well out there. Bye.